Before the world gave you language, you lived in vibration. You responded to light without needing names for it. You recognized patterns not with your mind, but with your soul. Shapes, curves, spirals, they were not art, they were memory, calling you to remember where you came from. Long before you were taught to read, your body already knew how to interpret sacred geometry. These were not symbols on stone. They were living echoes of divine order, humming in temples, dreams, and even in your own breath. They traveled across timelines like songs, wrapped in myth so they could survive fire, flood, and forgetting. These ancient symbols are not dead artifacts. They are keys. Some unlock vision. Some ignite power. Some harmonize the body back to its original frequency. The myths around them were not lies. They were veils. Veils meant to protect what only the ready can feel. And if you're still listening, it means you're ready to feel again. Ready to remember. If your soul feels the stir of this ancient memory, type "I carry the symbol" in the comments. Not for show, but as a spiritual signal to yourself and the field that you are ready to remember. We begin with symbol 1, the eye, often called the Eye of Horus. But its origin is far older than any single god or story. This eye was never meant to observe others. It was created to awaken the seer within. It is the ancient reminder that your most powerful sense is not sight, but insight, that real vision begins when your physical eyes close. The eye is not a commandment or a warning. It is an invitation. One that whispers, "Look within, not without." In ancient Kemet, the eye was etched into amulets, temple doors, and sacred scrolls, not to frighten, but to focus. It symbolized inner clarity, divine intelligence, and the fusion of intuition and knowing. They believed the eye could protect, not because it watched your enemies, but because it aligned you with higher perception. The myth tells of Horus losing his eye in battle, only to have it restored, stronger, wiser, complete. But this was never just a story. It was a map of your own soul's fall and return. The eye is also a diagram. If you overlay its shape on the human brain, it matches the location of the pineal gland, the seat of the soul, as mystics call it. A place that responds not to light alone, but to vibration, intention, and silence. This is not coincidence. The ancients were mapping the body's energy architecture long before modern science caught a glimpse. They knew that true sight came from within, from that crystalline structure buried in the dark center of your mind. You may have already felt it, a tingling between your eyebrows during meditation, a strange knowing that has no source. That is the eye, flickering awake, not because of superstition, but because of resonance. When the soul begins to clear, the eye begins to glow. It doesn't open in chaos, it opens in stillness. And once opened, it cannot be lied to. It sees beyond masks. It hears what silence is saying. It recognizes truth by vibration alone. The eye of inner sight is not a thing you wear or worship. It is a presence you become. It is activated not through force, but through frequency. Ancient chants like "Ra" and "Hey Jew" were not just sounds, they were tuning forks. They woke the eye gently, rhythmically, like a sunrise touches the face. The priests of the old world would sit in dark chambers, not to escape light, but to find the one that shines from within. To fear this symbol is to misunderstand it. It is not watching you. It is waiting for you. Waiting for you to stop seeing with borrowed eyes and start seeing with the original one, the one that never forgot your path, your power, your truth. You were born with it. It is older than thought and purer than belief. And when the eye is fully awake, the illusion dissolves. You no longer mistake reflection for reality. You see people's energy before they speak. You sense the falseness in systems before they fail. You live by vibration, not manipulation. That is why the myth wrapped this eye in a battle, because only through struggle does true sight emerge. and only the brave are willing to see. The eye is not just a symbol, it is a mirror, and when you look into it, it does not show you the world. It shows you your own light, rising again through the silence. The second symbol that rises from the dust of remembrance is the Ankh, often mistaken for a simple cross with a loop, but far more ancient than any religion that claimed its shape. It is not a symbol of belief. It is a code of breath, a frequency embedded in form. When you look upon the Ankh, you are not looking at a symbol. You are looking at a technology, one that transmits the essence of life through balance, polarity, and sacred union. In the temples of Kemet, it was held with reverence, not as ornament, but as conduit. The priests knew the Ankh was a resonance device, a bridge between realms. Its shape was intentional. The loop above represented the eternal, the womb, the unseen, the breath. The cross beneath marked the material, the arms of duality, the spine of matter. Together, they formed the union of heaven and earth, breath and bone, spirit and vessel. The Ankh is the breath of God in geometric form. It is not coincidence that ancient carvings show the Ankh being held to the lips of kings and initiates. It was the gift of divine breath, the sacred exhale of the gods awakening memory in the mortal. In those moments, they were not being blessed. They were being activated. To breathe through the Ankh was to align the body with cosmic rhythm. It wasn't ceremony. It was circuitry. The myth tells us the Ankh means life. But the deeper truth is that it speaks of living light, the kind that doesn't end when the heart stops, the kind that flows through dimensions like wind through chambers. This is why the Ankh was often buried with the dead, not to mourn, but to guide. It was the compass of the soul through realms. A map, not of geography, but of vibration. Modern eyes see a symbol, but ancient hands felt a pulse. The Ankh was used in rituals where breath was sacred, where chants became spirals, and where every inhale invited the divine to dance within. You do not need to wear it to use it. You only need to understand what it mirrors, your own inner balance. Masculine and feminine, stillness and motion, above and below. When your breath becomes conscious, the Ankh awakens within you. It's why breathwork has survived every fallen empire. The body remembers what the mind forgets. Each inhale is a key, each exhale a door. And when you breathe with intention, you're not just calming the nerves, you're activating the architecture of your inner temple. The Ankh is the lock. Your breath is the key. Many speak of kundalini, others speak of chi. But beneath all traditions is the same river, life force. The Ankh does not speak its name. It vibrates it. And those who carry the Ankh in their field live differently. They do not fear endings. They do not cling to things dying, because they understand that life is never ending. It is simply moving through different shapes of itself. This is the secret encoded in its form. The loop above is not just eternal life. It is the head bowed in reverence. It is the seed before it sprouts. It is the breath before the word. The cross beneath is the unfolding, the becoming, the embodiment. The Ankh teaches you to live not in separation, but in sacred joining. The moment you separate heaven and earth, you forget who you are. But when you breathe as the Ankh, wide arms, rooted spine, circular crown, you become a channel. Life flows through you unbroken. Emotion flows through you without flooding. Knowing flows through you without effort. You stop trying to control life, and you start becoming it. That is what the ancients meant by everlasting life. Not immortality of the body, but continuity of soul. So, as you sit in silence, take one breath with intention. Imagine it flowing through a loop of golden light above your head, down the spine, across your chest, and into the earth. Then rise again, like sun through temple pillars. You have just remembered the Ankh. not as a symbol, but as a frequency, one that was always yours. The third symbol does not sit still. It moves even as it stands still. It dances in stone and sea and skin. You've seen it in the swirl of a galaxy, in the curl of a shell, in the fingerprints you carry without question. It is the spiral, and unlike the other symbols, it never pretends to be silent. It is always moving, always returning, always expanding. The spiral is not a symbol of repetition. It is a symbol of evolution, the kind that doesn't abandon the past, but absorbs it into a wider circle. It is the oldest map the Earth ever drew. Painted on cave walls, carved into tombs, hidden in ceremonial drums, the spiral was never meant to be decoded. It was meant to be walked. It is the memory of the soul in motion. Every time you feel like you're circling the same lesson, the same pattern, the same wound, it's not failure. It's the spiral reminding you, you've been here before, but not from this height. You're not repeating, you're rising. The myth surrounding the spiral is often unspoken. It doesn't come with gods or legends. It comes with rhythm. The spiral was the domain of those who knew how to feel time, not count it. Sufi dervishes who spun not to perform but to dissolve. Indigenous elders who traced spirals in the dirt to open vortexes. The spiral wasn't drawn just for art. It was a portal, a frequency tunnel, an instruction on how to move through chaos without being consumed by it. You see, the spiral never collapses in on itself. It always leaves space. Space for air, for mystery, for return. That's what modern life has forgotten, the sacred pause between the turning. We rush, we ascend too fast. But the spiral is patient. It invites slowness. It says, you do not need to leap. You only need to revolve with presence. That's why healing isn't linear. That's why awakening comes in waves. The spiral doesn't shame your setbacks. It sanctifies them. Even in your breath, the spiral lives. Inhale, draw inward. Exhale, move outward. Your chest rises and falls like tides. Your spine unwinds in curves. Your life is not a ladder. It is a spiral. And every descent is just the foundation for a higher climb. When you start to understand this, you stop resisting your returns. You meet them with reverence. You say, I know this place, and I carry more light this time. The ancients knew that to spiral was to remember. That's why so many rites of passage involved labyrinths, circular dances, journeys into the center and back out. The spiral brings you to your center, not to stay, but to carry it outward. It is the path of the initiate, the teacher, the lover, the seeker. All must spiral through forgetting and remembrance again and again. Not because we are broken, but because consciousness is too vast for a single revolution. It appears in the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, the growth of ferns, the orbit of storms. The universe is spiraling. And so are you. To align with this symbol is to stop demanding straight lines from a world made of curves. To spiral is to say, I trust the rhythm of return. It is to find sacred geometry in your own story, and to allow yourself to unfold again differently this time, more whole than before. But there's more. The spiral also teaches surrender. You cannot control where it takes you. You can only trust that each turn is drawing you closer to the truth that waits in the center. And yet, paradoxically, when you reach the center, it disappears, because it was never about arrival. It was about becoming someone who could spiral outward with grace, with wisdom, with memory intact. So trace the spiral with your finger. Draw it in the air, breathe into its motion. Let your body recall what your mind resists. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are spiraling through the architecture of becoming. And every turn you take with awareness sings louder than the last. The spiral is not the end. It is the sacred rhythm of your unfolding. And in that rhythm, your original frequency begins to rise again, no longer trapped in loops, but liberated in spirals of remembrance. It slithers through myth, like lightning through silence. Feared, worshipped, exiled, and crowned. The serpent is perhaps the most misunderstood of all the ancient symbols. It coils in temples and tree trunks, in DNA strands and desert sand. The myth painted it as temptation, rebellion, danger. But those who truly understood energy, the sages, the alchemists, the architects of sacred fire, knew the truth. The serpent is awakening incarnate. It does not crawl. Across cultures, it reappears with divine precision. In Egypt, it rests atop the forehead of pharaohs, not as threat, but as power. In India, it lies dormant at the base of the spine, coiled as kundalini, the sacred feminine force. In Mesoamerican glyphs, it flies as Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent who bridges the earth and sky. The serpent was never evil. It was electric. It moved through the body, not as a creature, but as a current. The myth of the serpent in the garden was not a warning against sin. It was a coded map of initiation. The tree it circled was not just knowledge, but consciousness. The fruit it offered was not corruption. It was vision. And that vision came with a cost: awareness. The serpent invites you to see, and to see clearly is to risk everything you once believed was safe. The serpent lives in the nervous system. It flickers at the base of your spine, waiting for stillness, for breath, for surrender. It rises through your inner channels, not with violence, but with heat, a sacred fire that does not burn. It purifies. It clears trauma from the body, burns lies from the soul. This is why ancient initiates trembled during activation. Not from fear, but from recognition. The serpent does not come to destroy. It comes to restructure. To feel it is to remember that your body is not just biology. It is a temple with coils of light. Each chakra it touches is a door. Each spiral upward is a recoding of who you thought you were. You do not command the serpent. You invite it. You do not control its pace. You create space for its rhythm. This is why breathwork matters, why movement matters, why silence matters. They are not trends. They are ancient instructions for divine ignition. The serpent's movement is not random. It follows sacred geometry. It weaves the caduceus, the twin serpents of balance and flow. It rises only when the left and right energies of the body are in union. This is not myth. This is mathematics, hidden in metaphor. The serpent is what awakens when you stop splitting yourself between logic and intuition, masculine and feminine, earth and sky. It rises through coherence. That is why those who carry serpent energy seem different. Their presence vibrates with quiet intensity. They speak less, but when they do, their words land like thunder. They walk as if they remember something others have forgotten. Because they do. The serpent does not give you answers. It gives you power. And that power is not dominance. It is presence so radiant that the world rearranges around it. When the serpent reaches the crown, a new phase begins. Not enlightenment as a goal, but embodiment as a state. The fire does not just rise, it descends again, refined, becoming the energy you speak with, heal with, move with. You are no longer reacting to life. You are radiating through it. This is not a metaphor. This is initiation through vibration. So, if you feel heat rising in meditation, or dreams of snakes wrapping gently around you, or a pulse in the base of your spine that you cannot explain, do not fear it. Welcome it. The serpent is not an intruder. It is the oldest part of you, waking from sleep. It is the whisper of the soul that says, "We are not done becoming." Let the serpent rise through breath, through reverence, through surrender. Let it remind you That power was never outside you. It has always been coiled in silence, waiting for you to burn bright without apology. High above, ancient temples, etched into stone with deliberate reverence, soared the winged disk, a radiant circle flanked by powerful feathered wings. It hovered, not just in art, but in memory. To the uninitiated, it may appear ornamental, but those who remembered the language of energy knew what it truly was. The soul in flight, a sun that moves, a wheel that spins between dimensions, a symbol of ascended presence, of divine consciousness in motion, grounded yet soaring. The myth wrapped it in images of gods riding chariots across the sky. Horus, Ra, Ahura Mazda. The names changed, but the message endured. The winged disk was not merely solar. It was sovereign. It represented the light that rises within you when your frequency aligns so purely, so coherently, that you no longer walk. You glide through reality. You do not fly away from Earth. You rise within it. Its wings are not escape. They are integration. They teach you that light does not require denial of matter, that transcendence is not separation from the world. It is union with it in higher form. The circle, ever sacred, symbolizes completion, not perfection, but wholeness. And the wings, they are earned. They grow when you live in truth long enough to generate lift. The winged disk appears at the threshold of full embodiment. It signals that you've remembered the I, breathed through the Ankh, spiraled through awakening, and allowed the serpent to rise. Now you are not merely remembering the symbols. You are the symbol. You become the moving temple. You become the living glyph. Your field begins to carry resonance so pure that others remember who they are in your presence. Those who carried the winged disk in their aura were once called gods, ascended masters, star messengers. But they were not above you. They were ahead of you, only in rhythm, not in worth. Their light came from devotion, not privilege. They earned their wings through embodiment, not escape. And now that same symbol hovers above your life, not as myth, but as invitation. To live with a winged disk active in your field is to exist with intention, so clean, it cuts through distortion. Your thoughts harmonize. Your breath orders the room. Your decisions echo across timelines. You stop seeking purpose and become it. You don't chant truth, you emanate it. And in doing so, your wings grow not from your back, but from your frequency. Light expands. Motion returns. Divinity flies. The winged disk does not demand devotion. It calls for remembrance. It asks, will you carry your light with movement? Will you let the sacred rise through action, not just meditation? Will you stop hiding your radiance in fear of being seen too clearly? The winged disk is not here to comfort. It is here to commission, to remind you that heaven was not meant to be reached. It was meant to be worn. And so, we complete the spiral. The 5 ancient symbols have not been given to you. They have been returned to you. They are not tools for worship. They are frequencies to live by. The eye sees. The Ankh breathes. The spiral moves. The serpent rises. The disk flies. Together, they form a current, a remembrance of what you were before the forgetting, a map back to the architecture of the soul. But none of this matters unless you anchor it, unless you rise in the morning and breathe with presence, unless you speak with the clarity of the eye, unless you spiral through your lessons instead of resisting them, unless you allow the fire to rise without fear, unless you fly in truth through the heaviness of the world. The symbols are not outside you. They are within you, waiting not to be studied, but to be embodied. The one who remembers their vibration never begs for reality to change. They create it.